Well, you would need to look at the power situation in a society. For instance, in the economy, there are large firms and state-run firms too, in that. And there are small firms. The small firms, well, in some large measure, tend not to be in the sort of production of goods and services that are as well open to the economies of scale, mass production and so on, as the large firms. And the large firms collectively have more power in the society. They don't mind the small firms going to the wall. So, for argument's sake, if America was importing cheap toys and clothing from China, well, that's okay for the big power brokers. But if you're importing the sort of products that we're relying on for some of our power, high-tech and military stuff, oh no, that's quite different. We're not having that. And so you find Trump's approach to dealing with deficit suddenly becomes just that bit meaningful to the power brokers in your society. It was okay when China was really just supplying cheap labor. But when it starts to supply high tech as one of its factors of production, now that's really competing with the power brokers in your own country. And they'll want to do something about it. And of course, Trump is doing that. In some sense, he's still a Republican. He's still a billionaire. He's still one of the power brokers. In a small way. Massively increased by taking a political helm. Of course. But even in his own right, a rich man. He's not rich on making socks and plastic toys. He's rich on hotels and whatnot. Big hotels. Not your bed and breakfast place at seaside resorts in Kent. In a sense, a good thing about our political systems in the West is that you can find, if the unemployed get big enough, and those who are worried about becoming unemployed are a big enough group, you can cater to the masses and come in on a voting ticket into the power arena. And in some sense appear to cause quite a stir. But only if you get the cooperation of the rest of the power elite. The power elite is not ever united. It's like we see in communist parties. There's always someone willing to kill you to get your job. And a few of them banding together might just succeed in doing this. Alliances are, though, extremely transitory, for they're not blessed with being the most loving of individuals. Brokering trust and integrity and honesty and loving kindness. Although they may fund enormous public foundations that give some mass support to their power broking in the political arena, perhaps. That's a bit cynical, isn't it? Not sure as I should say that, but I've said it. Yes. Look, be reasonable. The problems of the world are not really because of its political or economic system. Certainly they present such a measure of rigidity and inflexibility to change. But what is at heart the problem? We don't love each other. You know, I'm not having sleepless nights about the unhappiness that might be in China, in the cities that are emptying and so forth. And the tragic loss of loved ones, death from, well, all sorts of causes, it seems, looking from the outside. And perhaps it's even worse if you see it from the inside. We don't know. It's hard to tell. And it's foolish to suppose that we do. But it's not foolish to be extremely cautious, in case we're right. It's very hard to trust in certain situations, and very unwise. Trust is noble where it's well placed. Where it's randomly or foolishly placed, it's anything but a blessing. Quite simply then, the world is not full of what you or I might define as saints. And in some sense that's related to the world being a situation of good and bad. Not entirely, because there are natural phenomena that are both good and bad for us as well, not just our social and political phenomena and economic and business, etc. I take it personally, that it could be for a very good reason. And I trust it is, because I can't see the benefit in trusting anything else. That this uncertainty is a blessing, and the presence of good and evil is a blessing, and change. It's here to teach us something, what we value and what we don't. And I muse that this may be indeed that we graduate to eternal life in heaven. And you may think that's cuckoo, make-believe. But I've found it to be associated with a far happier and meaningful life than not believing such. So I'm very pragmatic about it. I choose to believe. I'd be mad not to. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.